Let's get this fucking thing going.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've gotten everything offensive out of our system, right?
Thank you.
Let's just be sweet.
Yeah.
You have to do a cleansing.
Yeah, I needed to get the poison out of my system, and apparently Cass did too, real quick. Yeah.
Well, I took this microdose this morning, and it's like been great. You know, on hour 3 or 4 of the microdose, I'm like, wow, I'm making all these healthier decisions. But like on hour 1 or 2, I'm like, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
you like can kind of feel it coming up. And what's kind of cool about the microdose is you're like coming up, but you don't really come up to anything. You're just kind of more like, okay,
Yeah.
here we are, a little bit of more of a magical existence.
Yeah.
Which who couldn't want that? But when you do it, like we went to the beach the other day, and I took a couple of these microdoses, and it just told me, move your body and eat carrots. And I was like, all right, I need those messages more often.
Yeah, it's pretty good wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody should be microdosing mushrooms more.
Holy shit. The amount of problems that would take care of in this country
yeah.
if everyone just took like 0.2 of psychedelic mushroom every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imperceptible amount.
Yeah.
Like you really don't feel it. Like even what
Not-
Cass is on right now is 0.3.
Yeah. No, and just like you said, I was reading somebody's experiment with replacing LSD with coffee. Like they were like really big coffee addict, had 2 or 3 a day and just switched to LSD.
Whoa.
And we're talking about how their alcohol cravings were totally curbed by 5 p.m., which before on coffee was something that was like very
They
rampant.
needed something to bring them down.
Totally.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
sort of part of this wheel thing.
Dang.
And the acid just sort of like kept them up. And they also said it was easier to make decisions after dinner, like about sweets and stuff. You know, there just wasn't that, it was less of a hole it felt like they were trying to fill.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
what we heard from like the leading expert. We had talked to him, and he was like, you don't have to be sick to get better. And people just,
Right.
even with the littlest amount, will notice. Because like the big thing is he does this study where he has people like self-administer, 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on,
Yeah.
and then,
For a month.
keep
Yeah.
a diary during that.
That's
And
great.
most people are saying like, yo, I'm making healthier decisions about exercising, what
Yep.
I'm eating. If I, walk by clutter, I just pick it up,
Yeah,
stuff that
totally.
for everyone, part of me is like, oh, it could be the placebo then, but part of me is like, for everyone to kind of say like, oh, I'm making healthier decisions, it makes so much sense that that's what the mushroom wants for us,
Oh, yeah.
to be more harmonious and in our power,
Connected.
She's definitely smarter than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, that's why interacting with these plant consciousnesses is so helpful, because there's such intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, it's like so expansive and
Bigger
yeah.
picture.
Bigger
They
picture.
know the bigger picture, and they're
Absolutely.
like, oh, you're so silly.
Absolutely.
You're so silly. Well, what you guys were saying is that the mushroom was telling you to eat more mushrooms, like not
Oh,
just
yeah.
psychedelic mushrooms, but just mushrooms in general, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've fallen off my mushroom kick. I need to get back
I know.
on.
I need those friends who like take you to the forest and feed you mushrooms.
Yeah,
Mm.
Gail said that she does know somebody who purely forages and
Oh,
gets
purely
quite a lot-
forages.
Purely, yep, only forages.
Ooh.
But
We need to have them on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Who is that motherfucker?
Absolutely.
Like how
Yeah.
they consume.
Because when you fuck with the way that something grows, you're obviously fucking with the consciousness as well.
Mhm.
So there is sort of like a theory behind just doing wild things, just procuring what Gaia has.
Oh, I feel it because I'm like,
Mhm.
I've cut a lot of processed food out of my diet, but these
Yeah.
goddamn cheese doodles, they get me every time. I mean, like the vegan cheese doodles,
Yo.
they hit on all those flavor centers. And
You gotta live, you gotta have something. in
Right.
life.
Do you think that the mushrooms are so smart that they cut Cass off from those cheese doodles this morning?
Maybe.
Because
Were
we went on a big, Mare and I very reluctantly were like, we have to leave the house to get food for breakfast.
Yeah,
Wow,
it happens
and-
some of those mornings.
We made all the stops, and then we had
We did
cheese
bring a lot of
doodles.
money. We didn't have enough money for
Yeah,
cheese
we bought
doodles.
$20 and we had it, and
that's
then
what happens when
it's
you
the
rely
one
on
thing we
me to
couldn't
carry
afford.
the money all the time. You leave without me, and it's like,
Look, what I'm saying is the one thing we couldn't afford, and now it's not here, and you're saying you don't want them anyway. And I'm kind of like, maybe the mushroom did that.
Yeah, working with the mushroom is definitely more than just the actual psychedelic experience. I think it stays before. I think it's after. I think she stays with you. I always tell people when they're looking for her that she'll come into their life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for you. I need more.
And that is like, I think part of the heaviest when you do heavier doses and you're sort of like becoming more and more into this consciousness. It's so expansive, but it is its own thing. And I think that process of really becoming something and letting something in is like, can be kind of anxiety provoking because you're having to like angle all of your truths to its truths and check
Yeah.
them out. And put things together that weren't together in your brain before that maybe you didn't want to come together.
Mhm.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mhm.
That's how it's felt like the past month for me. I feel like I've had a bunch of mania and downloads and being uploaded to things that are kind of hard to swallow. But I guess that's
what do
just
you
part
put?
of
What do you classify as a mania as opposed to like, I don't know, being in a flow and like, you know, what's the
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't use the word mania. But I think it's
She's
just
a maniac on the floor. That's what I picture when I picture me.
rooster shoulder dancing. Yeah, it's just a really, really fast speed that I get on for like a week or a few days or something, where it seems like I don't need to eat or sleep, and I'm just like, questions are being answered at every moment.
Right.
You know, to the point that when you're on acid, it feels like I have to like hold on to something. I'm just listening,
Yeah.
and it'll happen for days on end. And I really I'm not hungry at all. I don't need to sleep.
Wow.
And thank God for weed. You know, weed will come in, and so I do eat food and I do go to sleep and stuff.
Well,
but,
weed helps you just like
yeah,
ground
like
it down.
if I wasn't interacting with other intelligences like that, like I would just be wired, and I would ride that. That's fine, and I think that's definitely important to normalize too. Like we just go through periods where you have more energy and less energy, and
Mm-hmm.
more extroverted, more introverted, and you just gotta let it flow and follow it and trust it too.
Yeah,
Trust in its
in our society, it's like anything that isn't like pure productivity,
right.
building, your castle of life, like
Yeah.
is looked at as like frivolous. Like, what are you doing? What
Right.
are you doing? And it's just like, I think part of this podcast is giving people permission to accept all the ebbs and flows that life throws at you. And
Yeah, and less even like circumstantially, but even just emotionally and energetically.
mhm.
You know, like things are going to change, and whatever was working for you for a certain period of time, maybe your energy changes and maybe you have different opinions on it. And I think letting those things change is obviously really hard for people in our society because we so value these like Saturnian, do the same thing, work for the same company, consistency, kind of over everything. And irregularities in our mood, we've demonized to the point that you think you have to, put chemicals in your body every day to regulate it. We call it things like depression and anxiety. And it's like really just the human experience is not sunshine and rainbows, and it's not heaven. You didn't incarnate into a limited body to feel like you're in heaven all the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is these emotions of social anxiety and worrying about what people are going to think about you and being depressed about your life because you're not doing what you are supposed to be doing because your whole life you've been listening to other people and you've been catering to them. And, it's these... Yeah, I think, and not taking it too seriously, at least for me, is the only way that I can, keep it happy and sunny.
You're fucking stealing my fucking words before we even got on here. I was like, the theme of this should be how to not take things too seriously.
Yeah. And I'm not always so good at it, but it is the thing that I feel like tethers me to any decency of mood in a consistent way.
I feel like the mushrooms overall in my life have shown me how to do that, and not in the way of just have fun, but more like there are things in life to take seriously.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're taking all the wrong things too seriously.
Totally.
And the things that are very serious, like what you put into your body and your
Yeah. Oh my
relationships,
God.
you aren't paying attention to it. You're not tending to this important, critical part of the garden.
Absolutely.
And everything else, rotten fruit, all that kind of shit. It
Absolutely.
can quickly become like that. So to me, and I'd love for you to talk about the masculine and feminine and how men receive mushrooms different, because you hear me and a lot of my friends, mushrooms come up and we're all like,
oh, it's so funny that it always puts boys on their feet. And the consistent thing that they tell me is that it always sits, lays you guys down.
it's like,
all
right,
Yeah.
face the altar and take your medicine right now, motherfucker.
Exactly.
That's where I got that from.
Exactly.
The mushroom told me, face the altar and take your medicine.
Oh, man, that's epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that she's obviously like a feminine consciousness, and I think men have a hard time listening, even more than women in our society, to the feminine energy and to being receptive and to taking down time. And so there can be a backlog of it, where you haven't been listening, where your body wants to rest, and you sort of come into this feminine consciousness, and it's just like, all right, now I have to do this,
That's how it felt when I first took them. 32 years old. There was a backlog.
Yeah.
And it just was the dam broke.
Totally.
And I could give myself permission to be so sweet.
Yeah.
It was something maybe I was always about, more sculpting this very sharp personality that was like, you
Yeah.
know, like a little difficult to deal with in a way,
Totally.
very difficult to read and
Yeah.
and get to. It was
Yeah.
protective.
Yeah.
But if I was gonna continue like that and continue making movies, my art would be bullshit. Like you would know it was coming from a bullshit person because like
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah.
We know. So it's
Yeah.
like the mushroom came along, found me. We were calling it in.
Yeah.
We called it in 6 months before we did it.
Yeah.
We said we would do this. We don't even know what it is. We had never heard anything about it, and got some mushrooms. And I remember the woman who gave them to us was like, these are very serious. I wouldn't even normally sell these to people. Like, she really impressed us with that. Like, this isn't about money. You'll
Yeah.
see. And she made us watch Graham Hancock's War on Consciousness
Right. Yeah.
before
yeah,
we
yeah.
took them.
Awesome.
That, like, what a dealer.
What
That's
a
not
She
even a
was a good
dealer. That's
dealer.
not a dealer.
Especially for you guys. Well, especially, yeah.
Like, I've never seen that person again. I don't even
Yeah.
remember who she was
Very
or how we
cool.
got that connection.
Amazing.
She just came
I
in
love
here,
that.
turned us on to the portal of all portals.
Yeah.
Graham Hancock opened us up to Duncan Trussell.
Yeah.
Duncan Trussell opened us up to a whole world of things.
Yeah.
Ram Dass, all this
Yeah.
stuff, you know. And, I blame the mushroom for all that.
Yeah.
Definitely just quintessential. We were the perfect subjects for her.
Totally.
Like, oh, I can actually come in and drastically change these people's lives,
Yeah.
but our apartment didn't change.
The optics don't change.
The optics don't change.
But
that
my
much.
inner experience is so much more positive. Like I feel so much more,
connected.
Aligned.
yeah, like empowered in my existence. Like I did 5 grams, and after that, I was like, I can do I can. The stuff that was scary to me became less scary to me. Like the other things became more scary to me.
Yeah.
But the things that I was scared about, not so scary anymore.
Yeah, I think that's, the fact that psychedelics bring you home to yourself, first of all, and sort of intuits or infers a self, which is cool. But it's something that I think people have a lot of fear around with psychedelics. And the thing, even with ayahuasca, that I was nervous before with doing it, there's this inference that psychedelics bring chaos into the mix. And to a certain extent, because the barriers between you and other things are broken down, that's true. But it's not random, and that the truths that you come to or whatever you're finding is just yourself, you know, right? It is this mirror. And I think people think, especially if you look at our lives, like, oh, I'm going to take psychedelics and I'm going to turn into fucking Sean Castanmare and be in this crazy situation. And it's like, no, it'll make you love your wife more and love your kids more and love the things that you already love more. You know, it's going to deepen your love for things and your understanding. And maybe it's going to, have you come to, I want to do some different things as well. But it's, there is a bringing home about working with these medicines, right?
And we're scared of it.
We're scared, right?
And
We're
it's
scared
okay.
of it.
Like I'm saying, I'm speaking for myself,
Right.
and probably a lot of people hearing this. It's like we're scared because we're so trained to be averse to that change. Like, we go to school and we figure out who we are through good grades, and I did good in this class and that, and it's
Right,
filtering me towards this profession. And you're figuring out who you are through this narrowing of things, this narrowing down of things, and then this brings this blossoming energy that's very scary for someone who's 32 years old and I had everything figured out.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Yeah.
Now I know I don't know shit.
Yeah.
It's great. It's such a fucking better perspective for someone like me.
Right.
For sure.
Oh yeah, when the aim goes from having everything to being nothing is kind of a really dramatic shift culturally. To think, oh, I need this house and I need this thing and I need this and I need that, and it's it doesn't make you not want those things still, but when you realize oh, the spiritual aim is to be okay with whatever is happening, it kind of just can maybe make you a little less ambitious, and maybe in the traditional ways, and so that maybe they can be inherently alarming to see someone go through a psychedelic awakening where all of a sudden, maybe they don't care about that promotion anymore. Maybe they're talking about following their dream as an artist or whatever, and you just kind of can get to this place where you're like, wait, maybe not everyone's supposed to do this. Maybe us all doing mushrooms is bad. And I'm like, man, if we all slowed down and tried to be artists, maybe that'd be a good thing.
Well, I also disagree. There are a lot of engineers and a lot of scientists and a lot of non-artists that take a ton of psychedelics,
But isn't that still art? Isn't it just still an artistic, creative form?
Everything is an art for sure.
So that's kind of just how I feel about it. I feel like it like wants to support the creative within you.
Absolutely.
Thinking outside the box and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, if we embrace this as a country, the culture, and we're doing it.
Yep.
It's going to be fully legal, all psychedelics in California.
Yeah.
You know, it's fully decriminalized in a
Yeah.
lot of places, and we're going to do more of that, and it's a huge threat to the powers that be, because trust me, once everyone's on this shit, we're going to say, why do we have a military? You know, why do we have a police force? Like let's question those things. Like, who have we demonized, and why do we need a demon?
Right.
Why does this country constantly need a scapegoat and a demon to prevent us from looking at ourselves? Because if you whittled this country down to one person, it would be this fat, angry, armed, fucking out of control fucking human being. And we've all come across those people. They're fucking scary. That's what this country is like. That's the view to the rest of the world is like, we're scary. We're fucking jacked up on narcissism and American exceptionalism, and we have a gun to the rest of the world's head. And once the mushrooms enter the mix in this country in a real way, once people
we could lead once again.
We could. Fuck leading. We would say we don't need countries. We don't need borders. Like, this goes so far. This can go so far beyond little things like police and military and imperialism. This like goes into dissolving of borders.
Right. Yeah, and like obviously psychedelics have also been used, especially by the technocratic patriarchy that's about to come, for productivity, right? Like, I think people also have this idea that like you can be less goal oriented or less ambitious with psychedelics, and again, like, if that's your truth, maybe that's what you're coming home to. But the other thing that psychedelics do that is so beautiful and helps you manifest in a more directive, assertive way and conscious way is that it aligns you, because it's showing you these these differing opinions in you, or these things that you're doing that are opposing each other, and therefore causing this tension that's causing you to not move with as much force as you want to move towards whatever you're trying to move towards, right?
Yeah. No, definitely it's like not necessarily less ambitious. It's like a shift in ambitions.
Totally.
Wanting to completely shift in that. I feel like
my ambition didn't go away. It was just shifted towards community and understanding, like, I'm a cell in a macro organism that is humanity, and like what can I do to be more of a healthy?
Right.
Mushrooms also, they like, I think acid's like a little different, because like acid could really get me to a place of like just contentment, or just every moment is so interesting. Mushrooms are like bring up stuff, like you say, like the wisdom that just like the downloads. You're like, fuck, okay. And that's why like Sean and I would do our like important business meetings on like a heavy dose, is like on the come down, because you're like, all right, this is when you feel like a clarity and a truth and a tapped into a deeper, larger wisdom.
Right.
And she definitely, it's like she wants us to work, but like work positively.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's like my only way I've been able to get like a little zen about the excessive consumption of plastic on this planet is that I hope that I know that there's monster mushrooms that need to feast on this and are going to love all this.
I don't understand why we can't just burn it for energy. I still don't understand the energy thing. Like, we should be hooking up all soul cycles like hamster wheels, so that people are like making energy when they're on their fucking soul cycles. I just feel like there's so many ways we're expending energy out here.
Well, but again, it's a threat to the way we currently do things, because if we kind of got more in that collective mindset, but so many, it hurts business, you know. And like when there's profit motive, it corrupts anything it touches. You know, there's profit motive in our power grid, motherfucker. There's profit motive in our fucking healthcare system. There's profit motive in our education system. So it's all like spoiled.
Right.
It's also spoiled. It needs to be reset and coming from a whole different angle. And like, honestly, mushrooms, acid, DMT, ayahuasca, toad, all this stuff like really helps you see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps you see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Maybe there is like a balance of like working together collectively to like be a more sustainable individual. So it's like, okay, we're not going to get on my soul cycle for the grid, but I can power my own house with my soul cycle, and therefore I will have a direct payback to the effort I produce.
Yeah, but That's a good idea. That's true. People also just love competitions and virtue signaling. So if you could be like, I racked up this much energy for the collective this week, that would motivate people.
Well, you could donate it.
Hell
I think
yeah.
in this social economy,
Totally. I mean, that's how it's going to be for
they
a
got to
while.
be able to post about it.
Yeah. We have to work with the current global mindset.
Yeah, it's cool at least that the virtues in the next generation are good.
Yeah.
You know?
Very much.
It's like, I don't care if it's some of it's surface. It's like it's going towards the right stuff.
all the kids we meet
Yeah.
that are like
that
even way
makes
younger
me not
than you.
worried. It makes me not worried about anything.
No.
Like, you guys got it.
Yeah. You guys got this
You
thing.
guys got this.
This thing, it's self-correcting.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
But isn't
Yeah.
that what every generation does? Is they just like at some point are like, the kids will take care of it, and meanwhile they just continue to create a situation that is harder and harder for the kids because we're not all taking a lot of ownership over like where we're at.
Yeah.
Like we're passing the buck.
Yeah.
Fuck that, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm 40. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone else take the reins here.
No, it's crazy because you want to like you think like, oh, living in nature is like the most sustainable or that's the healthiest thing. Like think about how much space you take up when you have like a house and then have to drive everywhere and everything. It's like, and that's where I've just come to be like, I don't know the fucking answers, but we should be looking for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. It's diversity. I think people should have the freedom to be able to do either, obviously. Whatever works for them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be, as I said, I just think it'll be interesting with the younger generation having more of those values and not romanticizing cities maybe as much as the previous generation did. And see what that does. Because it's like, I don't think we realize how much the younger generation enjoys not being around each other. Like, we've had such a hard time not going to concerts and stuff. And I think about I don't know a ton of younger people, but like, a lot of the younger people I know, like, were not going out before.
Yeah,
they grew
right.
up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting things
Yeah,
to come, what the fates are weaving.
It's like, they're still craving the connection,
They're
obviously.
definitely craving the connection.
And they're
They
binging
don't
on it.
get as much of it.
Yeah.
They're not touching each other as much.
Yeah, you need like X amount of hours of connection
Yeah.
on Instagram that equals like one hug. And it's like, just go have the hug,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because if some of the fates that have been whispering are right and pandemics don't let up and more kids are going to be homeschooled and, it's just going to be really fascinating.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, we just got, and this isn't me trying to be negative. This is just pointing out the obvious. If you haven't noticed how they treated us through the pandemic, they let us die. They let us go hungry. They let us get evicted. No support whatsoever. Bootstraps bullshit. And I feel like that's going to be a reflection of how things are going to be when these storms keep coming and the wildfires keep coming and the volcanoes start exploding. If we keep up with this system, look, we just got a real taste of what they're willing to do to us and how we can be sacrificed en masse to keep the status quo going. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. We just had a year and a half to fucking get on the same page and say fuck you to this thing that we're doing. And now people are slowly being dragged back to the office kicking and screaming, and they're just going to go. There's a general strike planned for October. Look into it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of change and security, churches.
Yeah.
We're thinking about one.
Churches are going to be really important for this future that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Different than the churches we grew up in.
Much different than the churches we
Did you
grew
grow up going to church? Did you ever get dragged to church?
No.
You didn't? It was like never a thing, really?
I maybe went twice or something.
Wow. It's kind of like Cass.
We're like in the dark ages of churches right now.
I was in London.
You were in London, so it wasn't a big church thing, or just you weren't part of that?
Well, London's been so non-religious for so long.
Yeah.
As someone who didn't grow up in churches, I like see the value of them and I'm kind of like upset. Like I didn't want to go and I'm glad I didn't go, but I just am like, wow, there's just like this beautiful organic community that comes together. And every time I go to a church and I'm sitting in a service or sermon or whatever, I'm fucking weeping. Like, it hits me so hard, but I guess you kind of have to, it should be a consensual experience, church. I think to be most effective.
It rolls you. I mean, I remember being a kid and being in church and like being fucking blown away by everything in the place. Like I remember just sitting there, like just trying to kill time, like counting how many people are in the choir, counting the tiles on the thing, you know, I like just paying attention to every little detail. I'm like, this feels like it has all the elements of something that's like magical, but it never hit. And people would leave there, you know, slightly more feeling a little bit more connected, but that's just because they all got together. It wasn't anything that the priest said or anything, because you could see, you'd look around, and just like me when I was a 9-year-old kid, no one's paying attention. This isn't hitting anyone in the heart. This isn't anything like that. I went to white church, so, you know, it's a little bit different, but I saw the value in it.
Well, and you also went to did you go to a Catholic church? Mm-hmm. Well, it's all about shame and stuff. And
I had a very different experience in churches than you guys did. They always really freaked me out. Like, goosebumps as soon as I walked in. Felt like my soul was on fire. Shit. Freaked me out. Freaked me.
Oh, you felt like you were going to hell?
Fuck out. Every time I step into a church, it freaks me out. I just think the energy, it's the, like, to me, it just brings me right to that tower card in the tarot where it's like, oh, you really built this thing thinking you're closer to something. And, like, such an extravagant show of, like, physical wealth display and patriarchal and, you know, monotheistic oppression and like demon versus angels. And yeah, every time I step in there, like I feel nauseous. And and that's why it's so funny that like my entire life is around spirituality. Cause I really had to get over it. Yeah. I really had to get over religion to get to spirituality, you know? Same. I mean, I remember being in religious education class, and I was a straight A student in school, and that was the class that I purposely failed. You know, I remember they asked us to do like the 10 Commandments, and I said like the most offensive shit you could possibly say. You know, this is the same teacher that I would like ruin her skirt with ink in my fountain class, like so bad. But yeah, I had a real problem with churches right off the bat. I mean, real problem with all authorities, I think, of larger scale. And so it's so funny that now I'm like, I guess I'm going to, I should probably start a church. But that it's like, yeah, we need ones where there's spaciousness, you know, for thought and consciousness, for people to come in and feel however they want to feel about whatever, but for us to supply things like sacraments, which to me are the, you know, a lot of the important part of churches and such and such and yada yada. And obviously the choir and the music part, because those are the only really beautiful moments I've had in churches, is going to see the boys choir in London. And you know, yeah, absolutely. The church that my family still goes to, and I go with them every now and then, there's a rehabilitation facility there, and all the men that are in the rehab come and sing at the mass, and they all wear white robes and everything, and they come in and like you can see like, oh wow, that guy's been sober for like 5 days, or that guy's been sober for like 2 months, and like they start singing, and you know, it might not be the most like perfect, harmonious, whatever, but try not crying when these men who were broken down maybe a week before are there and they're singing devotional songs. It's a beautiful thing. Singing is definitely going to be a big part of our church. We're going to have a church choir. Yep. My grandmother, who was an opera singer, was in the church choir here. She was one of the first women, I think, in was it Hansel? I can't remember what German composer. Anyways, and my other grandmother, that's probably the only question she ever asked me. You joined a church choir yet, Mary? So hopefully I can finally say yes to her. Yeah, that's what her name is too. Her name's Mary Margaret? Wow. So yeah, and the audience should sing. I always say, like, I don't think everybody needs to play an instrument, but everybody needs to sing. So that is, if you're not spiritual, just sing. You'll get it. You know, you'll eventually get it. Really bring spirit in. So yeah, excited about that. And obviously there's like just so much to explore about how to do that and feel right about it. And, you know, because we want a nice space, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want too nice of a space. And I want it to be accessible. And I feel like, I was kind of set on doing it in the city, but nature does hold you so much nicer, and she does so much of a better job imagining and architecting space than we could ever do. In the way that it holds you and reflects on you. And it would have to really fall in our lap to do it in New York City. It would have to really fall in our lap to do it in New York City. Which we're putting out there. Yeah, which we're definitely putting out there. We'd also like it to fall in our lap, like, outside of the city if it did too. You know? Yeah. Woodstock or something.
Absolutely. The Hudson Valley.
The
somewhere.
Hudson Valley, yeah. Being surrounded by the intelligence of trees and other stuff, yeah. And it also just feels like I'm at this time where we have a lot of people that are excited about the same thing, that are willing to do, work, whatever the hell.
That's hard to come by.
It is hard to come by.
In my life, I've never come by it until now, to the point where I'm a little suspicious of all the
I'm
people.
Suspicious too.
Everybody being like, "Hey, good fucking call. Let's do that."
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like things are. I told this to Gail yesterday. It's like things are becoming a little too obvious.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's being laid out a little too clean.
Yeah, come on.
Where I've been like trying to turn my head and not look at it and ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really knocking on the door right now.
Well, I mean, but that's what happens when I feel like you're really listening. And that's what living a psychedelic lifestyle does for you. It's like you're listening, and it's like things become so obvious. It's not this fucking struggle. It's, like it barely feels like decisions even need to be made. They're almost made for you.
Yeah.
It's just like,
it's funny. It's my mom's worst fear. That I'll try to start some sort of church or something. It's been like a long worst fear for her.
Yeah.
But I guess you just create the...
Well, I mean, I think that the first thing you got to say, and everyone needs to understand, it's like, it's not about us.
It's a weed church.
It's a weed church. Yeah.
We're worshiping plants and Gaia and things bigger than us, for sure.
Yeah. And we're learning to listen to them, and learning to listen to them for the space that they want provided for them, and the songs that they want to hear.
Yeah, and it's a place for you to worship you.
Yeah.
It's the church of you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
We're going to have a bong altar, obviously.
Oh, man.
Among other things.
The bong altar is going to be fucking sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, the confessional booth. I still can't decide how we're going to make that super fun, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. There's going to be I picture a big grand piano in there.
Oh, yeah. We got to have an organ pipe that's made of bongs.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you ever seen that church that's made of all human skulls?
Oh, yeah. Holy shit.
Fuck.
So metal.
Yeah,
that shit's metal.
That's some heavy Krishna shit.
That's heavy Krishna shit.
Well, it feels like what we would be doing anyway. Like, what we do is, like, we invest in our space.
Yep.
To make it conducive to being comfortable for people and having gatherings and hosting feasts and stuff like that. So it's just like the idea that we could expand that out and more people could benefit from it and be part of making it what it is feels really cool. Absolutely. And it also like having some space that you can like, I don't know. The reason we haven't wanted to get a house, is because we're like, we're such nesters. Like, we would give everything to this fucking house. And it doesn't, for a couple fools like us, it doesn't feel like worthy of that much creative attention and potential.
Yeah, right. It feels so self-centered, Yeah,
it's like, who could care? Okay, like, we're going to make the perfect bedroom. Who gives a fuck? Like, fuck the perfect bedroom. Like, I want to, like, devote to like the perfect space that more than just me would be benefiting from,
Yeah, I was just talking to my dad about that. That it's like I can't really get motivated for myself.
No.
It's so sad to say, but like I won't do anything for myself. But as long as you put other people on the end of it, like I'll go to the end of the earth.
You can at least cook for other people. I can't even cook for myself. I mean, you can at least cook for just yourself. I can't even just cook for myself. I'm like, fucking, who cares?
Yeah, but most of the time I'm just like shoving fistfuls of spinach like Popeye into my face from the refrigerator, And it's the same thing with my house too. I think people are surprised like how barren my house has always been, because I've always been an artist, and like clearly very creative. But it's like that's the thing. I'm such a crazy perfectionist, and like the amount of focus I can put into stuff, it's like I knew I had to cut myself up at like nothing. Like it doesn't matter, man.
Cut yourself up at nothing.
Like have a fucking toothbrush, have a bed, you're good.
You don't need forks or plates
literally,
or towels.
Or like
literally you open the cabinets in your kitchen, it's like, oh, just nothing in here.
The first time I went over your place, I'm like, Mary, did you get robbed or anything very recently?
And I've also been a gypsy, so it's like it's made my life easier. I got my first couch when I was here. I obviously
I love that the night before we did Valentine's at your apartment, you were like, I just got a bed frame this morning.
Yeah, I've been putting my bed on the floor ever since I've been living alone.
Well, and Cass was saying the same thing. She was like, if you weren't in my life, you don't even know what my days would be like. They would not be noteworthy.
Yeah.
No, that's why, like, that's why I'm like, first order of business, find someone you give a fuck enough about to show up for, because it not necessarily is always going to be yourself. And that's the other great thing about churches is you might be able to meet the love, because if you kind of have similar priorities about, you know, prioritizing music and creativity and sacrament and all this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Those are some powerful values that are important in your next mate. So if I could, I don't want to be a matchmaker, but if I could facilitate the spaces that allow people to fall in love with themselves and each other, would be really fucking cool.
Absolutely.
That's a goal.
Way to put it.
I don't even think we need to be.
Way to put it. That's got to be in the Bible.
I don't even think we should be self-conscious about that. That should be like, yo, this is a place you come to meet love.
Yeah, find love, because we fall in love with people all the time. Like it's the act of what we do. We like fall in love with all of our friends, you know, and like we try to take it there, not in a sexual way. Like how you love someone is actually like, you can love them a lot more if you don't care about what's going on in their pants, you know?
Yeah. That's good. Y'all had a little birthday party for me. That was like the most special, like not even hard to top. I think that would be impossible to top. Like I can't even, to me, like that was the most perfect vibe we could possibly have cultivated and put out there. And like, look, a lot of people that I know from my past life don't know about this stuff. This sounds like a foreign language to them, and they all came together, and it wasn't about drinking for once. It wasn't about any of that stuff. Everyone took the sacrament, faced the altar, and took their medicine. It was fucking incredible. The vibe was so high, and it deepened all of our relationships with ourselves and each other in one night, you know, in one night of getting together, sharing music and just sharing good vibes, smoking weed together. Yeah,
and it's so true, and MDMA is like so powerful in that way, and just like a few hours, how much it opens your heart. And it really does keep it open, you know, with relationships. And I think sometimes especially with the love for yourself, it can be hard with the week after, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that and start that narrative for people, because it can also be easy and not hard at all, depending on how your life is and how you are and stuff. But I also think like, if we had a church and there's just a place where people could go, even if I wasn't there, you know, that would like make me feel great as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Because that's the hard thing about like wanting a restaurant or something. So you have to fucking be on that shit all the time.
Right.
We left our church, which this apartment has become our church, and you and Joey held the reins, and it was awesome. Yeah. I was like, yo, there's fucking ceremony going down at our place right now, and we're not even there. Like, that is the shit, man.
Yeah. No, it was really fun.
And then you could have, like, residencies of, like, like, whoever's holding down the flame this week, like if you really resonate with them, like this is your week to go to the church.
Yeah,
you know?
Devin's doing a residency for 2 weeks if you want to come do wizard shit.
Exactly.
You know, Alexa's doing witch shit here for a couple weeks.
And then we'll have musician residencies, so if you want to work with certain people too, you know, you guys can come down and
finish your album, start your album.
Yeah.
You know, just meet your bandmates.
You know, you're going to be doing the sermons every day or whatever. You guys can play whatever.
Yeah. That's the scripture. It's like all this music that
absolutely.
I just want to be around it. Like it's so self-serving. Like I just want to be around. Like at your 40th, the most magical part about it is like you had 3 friends who are both all like talented at the guitar and singing and music. They all came together and put together some songs they thought you would like, and they fucking. It was like a fucking full-on serenade. I don't even know if they meant it to be like that, but it was fucking epic, man. Yeah. And just to be able to create a space where like different people are doing different things together and just wanting to create a strong vibe of musical beauty. I was so self-conscious. I was like, do I not have enough games? Like we set up Nintendo in the other room, which was really fun. Mario Kart and stuff. But when there's no like playing cards or whatever, like picking up an instrument is kind of ends up being the name of the game. And
it saved my life. I was fucking flying because like we had spent the day taking acid. And,
I fucked him up a little bit.
Oh, Mare Bear.
But that being said, Sean, you guys, it's your,
I'm fine. You know, sometimes you just need to remind me that. You know what I mean? I just forget.
I've given you too much drugs, but you're totally fine.
No, I gave him nothing.
Barely anything.
Both like yesterday I gave you nothing, and the other time I gave you nothing. I knew he was gonna have a come up because every drug he had a little bit of you know.
You should have seen the look I gave Wes yesterday after he handed you a pill and you popped it in your mouth. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then he's like, it's just THC. I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I'm like, these are my people. You don't just fucking drug my people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't take it, by the way.
But no, I mean, THC is one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is. But it's also kind of a lot
It's
more
kind of
serious than this other
it's
stuff.
the craziest thing.
It's the craziest thing. If you eat a bunch of weed, like that's what he was offering us. Like, the fucking shit could go off the rails pretty quick.
Well, you're just like gonzo.
Yeah, totally gone. Totally gone. But that party was a small example of what we could be doing every day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the gathering aspect of it will be huge. The spatial aspect of it will be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you like devote to like a moment and a vibe and not a person,
Yep.
Yes.
you know, it's
Yeah.
like so
And,
not centric to like, okay, what does that preacher have to say? Because then you're worried about what
Yeah.
the preacher's doing in his off time. Who gives a fuck? There's no
Yeah.
preacher.
yeah, and I guess you could argue that the moment is a philosophy, but I would argue that it's also not even a theory or philosophy. It really is a worshiping of the moment
Oh yeah.
and love, and whatever that means to you, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
What does that mean
the
to you?
most ambiguous Bible that I could possibly write, you know.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. If you want to hear Mare reading our Bible, check out episode 111 of Church of Chill on patreon.com/Church of Chill.
Yeah, I'm. I had hoarse voice in that. I was trying
It's
to
so
catch my breath.
appropriate. It's so appropriate, though. Yeah. That's how the sacred scrolls need to be read in slight hoarse voice. You know?
That was so fucked
Chud
up.
voice.
I want there to be a lot of stained glass,
Yeah, of course.
a lot of
Mhm.
candles,
Mhm.
Of course.
Well,
a
it's
lot
just-
of fluffy things.
It's filled with the art of the congregation. It's
Yeah, that
like
too.
let's decorate the realm together.
Yeah.
You know, let's make this a place that like the next generation could take over and the generation after that, and just
Yeah.
you know, it's like there's Christ consciousness, but then there's chill consciousness.
Totally.
You know, it's kind of the same thing, but like when
Yeah.
you really tap into your inner chill,
Yeah.
there's no better way to worship the moment.
It's
Yeah.
like we're taking
No.
your weed dealer's apartment and like making it a larger space that you can play in.
Yeah, your coolest weed dealer you've ever
You're
had.
the coolest weed dealer. 'Cause
Like
most
Cass has been lucky with her weed dealers. I think that
Yes.
probably says that more about
Yeah,
than
definitely.
anything else about that statement.
She's been very protected. She's lived a very charmed existence.
Well, pretty early on, we
cute.
became our own dealer, so
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that worked out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think part of this, like, because we've been together a while now. Like, we've been doing this dance since November, and like this really feels like all of a sudden it just clicked into like, yo, this is why we're together.
Well,
This
I
is what we
love
gotta
that
do.
Mare told her parents.
This is what I was just about to say.
Sorry.
Mare told her parents about us, and like, that was trippy. That was a fucking trippy day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you hadn't seen or talked to your brother in God knows how long.
Years.
You had lunch with him and then
Yeah.
called your parents up.
I had
who
his
you
number
also don't-
blocked until I had lunch with him.
You're like, I'm trying to organize
I'm-
lunch with him, but it's confusing because I only have his email. I'm like, I didn't say this. But I was like,
Unblock him.
I'll block his number for a day.
Yeah, it had been years, but it was so good. He's in such a good place. And yeah, I talked to both of my parents.
I mean, obviously that meeting did something for your spirit where you got on the phone with your parents, because that meeting with your brother could have gone in the other direction, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you were in a different headspace,
Yeah.
you know, where you're more alienated from your family.
If you
Right.
asked me, I'd be like, don't tell him. Don't tell him.
That's what was so surprising
Like-
and bold about it, because, you know, yeah, it's like, we don't want you to get in trouble. We don't want anyone fucking laying any more of a trip on you than, like, you know, it already.
I'm like, take Sean home, and then next time you'll take me home, and like,
Yeah,
it'll be
well,
fine. We'll
so-
just trade it. You'll just be like, this is my part. Like, they'll get to meet both of us, just they don't think it's at the same time.
They took their medicine though, right?
Yeah, and I guess I have never really been that concerned about being who they want me to be, and I'm part of my art form that has always been in my awareness is that, like, I do need to exist blatantly rebellious in the way that I am to people, because it makes them question things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've always felt that, and I get excited about it. Like, I love splattering brains on the walls, you know.
Well, what's good, what you said was good about your parents is like, they're not going to worry about you. Like, they know that you're in control of your, like, they're not going to be like,
Mhm.
what are you wrapped up in a cult? Like, they're so beyond that with knowing you.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, they know who I am enough to know that I'm not I'm not getting swept up by somebody or wrapped up in
or
things,
are you?
you know, or am I?
But why not?
Yeah, and I've broken them down so much, and like I'm sure it'll take time for them to like ingest the medicine and like not have it have tension and such, or you know, whatever they need to deal with. But I do think it's important. Like I think it's important for them to know the way that I exist. Yeah.
I'd like to introduce you to the people I'm dating. The people.
Yeah.
So bold just for that alone.
Well, and it's like, I don't know. If you want to love me, you should, like, I don't know. I also can't lie. Like, I can't lie. I'm not a liar. And they just, like, asked me enough about stuff. And I hadn't told them for this whole time. So, not that I talked to them a lot, but.
I think it begins to repair your relationship with them. And if there's one thing that is tangibly different about you from when we met you, it's that.
Yeah.
It's just like, the reflection of your parents and your relationship with them. And we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there. I told you that. It might sound like, I'm not belittling your deal at all, but like, I've been there. I've been there with my dad. She's been there with her dad. You know, my life's better when it's not like that. So I would assume that would be the case for you.
Yeah.
You know, you just feel like when you can, and this isn't the case for everyone. They're not going to be able to do this, but it's worth doing if you can. If you can repair your relationship with your parents, you're going to feel a little bit more held by this universe, right? So a lot of times it's hard because they do fucked up things when we're so innocent and young and vulnerable. And, you know, it's like you want to hold them accountable. Then you start getting to be their age when they had you. And you're like, no one's really an adult. You know, no one really knows what's going on. And, like, the best thing I could do for my parents even still is just say to myself, they did their best. Like, they really did their best. They gave me life. Like, thank God I'm loving my life. I love it. I love it. The fucked up shit. They did their best. They did their best. They were honest with me, at least in terms of, and probably similar to your parents. It's like they didn't hide my dad didn't hide his drug abuse. He didn't hide the dysfunction. It was right there on the surface. It was like not something in the shadows of our family. When my dad got in trouble, it was on the front page of the newspaper. It was it needed to be dealt with. It forced my hand as a human.
I mean, I wish that. I mean, I think my mom lied to me about sending me away. There's a lot of lying, and I think like sending me away in theory is kind of that, right? It's like hiding. It's not dealing with it. It's refusing to deal with it.
It's also
refusing
why you
to talk to me. It's refusing. You know, it's like whatever. But yeah, I don't like their best sucked. Cool. I think the only thing that makes me feel better about it is like, oh, I chose it. Like I chose the abuse, and I chose this shit apparently because I want to work through it, and I like love my life to be hard, and so it can, you know.
But now you're like interested in more hard things. Like you're not to me from this perspective, like you're not interested in having to even put up the fight against your family of them wanting to have a relationship with you. Like you're not interested. Like you're like life is hard in the way like continuing to keep your brother blocked and allowing him to now show up as a different person and you to see how much he's evolved is allowing you the space to like, it's not like your life's not going to be hard. It's just going to shift what's hard about it.
Totally.
It's harder, believe it or not, when you're holding up all those you know, when you're protecting the castle, you know, it's much harder. I've fucking been there so many times, and that was definitely a huge part of my psychedelic awakening because the work that I do is always through people. You know?
Yeah, most of my astrology is just like, it's going to be extreme no matter how it expresses itself. I mean, really, like, I think I probably said this on this podcast, but I think it's like one of the best astrological anecdotes. I have my moon, my mother, my emotions in my 12th house of institutions, prisons, jails. Like I was literally sent away from my emotions. You know, it's poetry to my astrology. And it continues to present itself that way. So.
Well, I think what's happening now is like it's still going to be extreme, but it's going to be extreme in the way of like it's an extreme thing to start a church. It's an extreme thing.
Oh, it's just wait. That's what I've come to is like life is asking me to move a ton of energy, even just physically. You know, I've had to come to that, and so it's like if I don't do it in the positive ways, it's going to present itself in the negative ways. And that's been true in my life, because I've had crazy amazing shit that people can't believe happens to me too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as my focus isn't on the bad shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I can align myself to the more positive extremes. And that's what I always tell people, like, yeah, you may have like a ton of really hard angles and they're going to express themselves, but maybe it's beautifully hard in a beautiful way, you know. Maybe you're carrying a ton of people in your gravitational force, you know.
That's how I felt when I met you.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You carry a beautiful weight. Yeah. It really made you like, whatever went down, and we talked about it on our first podcast with you, the Child of Chaos episode. Listen to that again if you don't know Mare's backstory. But it brought you here, you know, it made you the person that like we fell in love with instantly.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, yeah, no, I'm so grateful for them being buffoons in the ways that they were fucking buffoons and fucking up. And like, yeah, man, like, I don't know what my high school experience would have been, because I was already like not wanting to, you know, do the traditional path anyway. So I think it just forced me to realize who I was younger and realize like how crazy and magic I am, to even be able to escape the place, to even be able to do things like that and be like, oh, I really like, I don't have to do what people force me to do, you know, in really extreme ways, and express my willpower in that way. And it sent me into, I think, being able to have the confidence to start tattooing people. And,
absolutely.
You know, like, it obviously birthed me into myself. I'm very grateful for them. And I'm grateful, like, they've changed, you know, and my brother's changed, and they continue to want to be better people and continue to be accepting of extreme stuff that I tell them, you know, and even like put a smile on their face through the phone, even if they're thinking negative thoughts about it, you know. And as I say, I think that comes from deprivation. I don't think, you know, I think sometimes starving people out is what they need to realize that you have a certain expectation of how you want to be treated and dealt with in a relationship too. You know what I mean?
They're not even just...
Yeah, they're just grateful to be talking to you. They're not going to be like, wait, I have something to say about you starting a cult.
Yeah, I think there, in a way, the way you described the interaction, it sounded beyond accepting. It sounded like...
Oh, they're supportive of me.
Supportive.
Like, they're really supportive of me. Yeah,
they
no.
like this.
And I'm excited, like, it feels like working out karma, you know. I'm excited to deepen our relationship and to, like, continue to shed away my resentment, because, of course, like, the more my resentment for them sheds away, the more it does for myself and other people.
There you go. I mean, and honestly, take it from me, if Mare can do it, anyone can. with the level of buffoonery. Buffoonery is such like a... Oh, those knuckleheads kidnapped you in the middle of the night and put you in prison. Yeah. Fucking those rascals. Yeah. Such buffoonery.
That's how they think
Sent
about
you
it.
away for your high school experience was in high security. You had a high security high school experience.
Totally. Oh, and before that, I had private investigators too.
Yeah, well, that's fun. I mean? So. As a teenager, being gang stalked by paid help. That's fun.
Does it help you to know that Paris Hilton went through this too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know, like, what her, like, more details of her situation are. I mean, I know it, like...
She was kidnapped in the middle of the night and, like, sent to Utah.
Exactly
in a
like
Mormon
yours.
fucking high security situation, and it really fucked her up.
She's finally coming out
but
about it.
It's these things that rich people do, right?
I was going to say, I'm so glad that she's speaking up about it and that, like, more people should. And I remember somebody coming to me, who was trying to build a case against them and stuff, who had gone there with me. And I'm always willing to, like, talk about my experience or whatever. But, yeah, obviously people romanticize having money, and that's why everybody's in this rat race in America for having money, because you think it brings you happiness. And, of course, like, a certain level of money can dispel anxieties and things you have about, you know, trying to make it in this world.
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
if your basic needs are covered, they say that you are you have more access to being able to be happy, but
Totally.
more money than that doesn't make you more
do
happier.
anything.
Right.
Pretty much like over 70 grand.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not that much money, right? Yeah, it's like almost like beware the amount of money, because your parents can have enough money to literally, you know, hire private investigators. And
Yeah.
hire kidnappers and
Yeah,
send you away to institutions and have other people deal with you. And money, you know, in a lot of ways for people interpersonally and also relationally is just really corrosive.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it brings in a sense of power that doesn't exist, because that's the thing with my mother. It got to a place where just I was more powerful physically, and that was her power trip over me, was money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she had more money than me.
Yeah.
So she could hire weight, right? You know.
Well, that's what money does to people. It gives them the false sense of control.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden,
Yeah,
you
it
can
helped her
control
control
your
issues.
life a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Also,
You can control your out-of-control daughter.
Absolutely.
If she didn't have money,
Absolutely.
that would have been a much more personal
Yeah,
thing. You guys
absolutely.
might have worked through it.
Absolutely.
She might have had to stop being physical with you and
or talk to me or
Or get her
know.
ass beat one of these
Yeah,
times.
or just be okay that I didn't want to be around her and maybe reflect on why I wouldn't want to be around her.
That's
because that
rough.
was the big trip. Like,
That's rough.
she couldn't control, like, that was really where the power trip entered, was like the loss of control of where I was, because I would just leave the house because I didn't want to be around her.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, that's like happens in a lot of relationships. People get upset about, people know, it's like, why don't they want to be around you?
Well, do we have that issue? I think we do.
I used to have, people like get mad at me too as clients who I don't remember, and I'm like, be more memorable. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you're zoomed in when you're doing it.
I remember everybody. But
Yeah.
taking responsibility for relations.
Mm.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily look at those hard things. And I think that, money allows you to not, like, when we're more in a barter economy where we need to, like, when you need help, you're more likely to help other people. And when you don't need help because you can pay to solve any problem you have, you're not going to be a very helpful person, because why would you help someone if you don't need that same expectation in return,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I know it's a dark portal, but like Jeff Bezos going to space, you see these interviews he did afterwards, it's like, we are unmasked right now. He literally said in an interview, I want to thank all the Amazon workers and customers because they paid for this. And it's like, dude, you have $1 trillion and your employees are sleeping in tents and they can't pee.
Yeah, the
And
7-minute jerk off.
like to go and do something that we were able to do in the 1950s and then get more media attention for that than climate change got in like 5 years combined.
Yeah.
It's like, where are our priorities at? How are we still trusting these institutions? Why are we continuing to cheer on accumulation of wealth as if it's doing something for anybody but that fucking dude and his ego? Yeah.
Yeah. It's time not to look up but in, because we can't wait for Jeff Bezos to change or wake him up. Like, we can just hope he has an awakening, but we just got to worry about ourselves right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Circle the wagons and plant a fucking church that will grow. And, we're just doing our best to hold the vibe. And that's all the church is, really, is like, come here and pick up on the vibe and hold the vibe and bring that vibe elsewhere. And we could start to raise the frequency here, I feel like, a little bit.
Absolutely.
It's revolutionary in that way.
Absolutely.
Low-key, like, it's not going to be written into the Bible or anything like that, but it's like, wink, wink, in this society, taking care of yourself, listening to plants is a revolutionary act. Trust me, because everything's working against you.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I just think for the timing too, like, there's obviously a lot of press about this, and there is a psychedelic renaissance happening, and yet there still really isn't a lot of representation in larger institutions and larger spaces for differing opinions and a lifestyle like we have. So I just think that's exciting to me too.
Absolutely.
Just to have a different voice out there, a different tuning fork, something else for the kids to listen to.
Ouch, 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 ouch. Can we do a little promotional section here before we wrap up?
Yeah.
We're selling Hop A now. Which is you can research it yourself. Type in Sacred Jungle Tobacco in Google, and it'll come up.
Yeah, I've never been able to smoke cigarettes. I've always been super sensitive to tobacco and nicotine or whatever it is. Like, Sean has these like
Pouches.
Zen things that he does, and if I put one in, I always have to lay down for like 3 seconds. And that's always been a cigarette is too. Like, I take 2 puffs and I'm like, I have to lay down. And I don't know how people do it, and they stand up and stuff. Anyways, long story short, I'm able to have tobacco through this medicine. Basically snort it or blow it up
You
your
blow
nose,
it up
rather.
your nose. Yeah.
And tobacco is a very intelligent consciousness. I was just telling my brother this week how lucky I feel to actually finally be able to interact with her, and very grounding. And embodying, and at the same time has so much levity, and like so much wisdom and love and truth, and like always helps me out. I do it almost every day now at night.
Yeah. I
So-
think it's a great
And-
ritual to either start your day or end your day with.
Totally. Yeah, it helps me end my day. And especially after I do ketamine or whatever white powders you want to start up your nose, it really like clears me out. Like I'm not sinusy at all today, and I quite.
If you have allergies, if you struggle with allergies or any kind of sinus issues or anything, believe it or not, like blowing this dust
Yeah.
up your nose,
it'll clear you out. It helps.
Yeah, and it connects you. It
Yeah,
really
it
connects
connects
you.
you.
It's intense.
It is intense.
But we have a bunch of it, and it's for sale. Like, you could reach out to us if you want any of it. And we also have pipes that.
Yeah, we have a bunch of really cool pipes. They're not always this
Really
big.
cool.
We have like smaller ones too.
Yeah, there's
The
self-serving
yeah.
pipes, and then
Yeah.
there's ones where you can serve to someone else, which it's really
Like a
good.
little bit more of an event thingy.
Yeah, it's kind of good to have both.
Yeah, well, definitely a hot bay section of the church.
Yeah.
It's also funny because like all these pipes too like fell into our life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And they were like from our friend who was down in Brazil. He
Yep.
like was all these pipes and
Shout out to Jorge.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is.
We'll
this
find them
is-
good homes, you know.
It's straight from the jungle. It's straight from a tribe in the Brazilian jungle who are holding it down, and it's a great way to support them. And so, yeah, we bought a whole bunch of stuff for them to kind of spread the good vibe.
Yep.
And we have that available. And, yeah, other than that, patreon.com/Church of Chill. Throw us a few bucks and get access to the Discord community
Yep.
and the Church of Chill radio show, which
Yeah.
is sacred. That's our scripture, really.
It is absolutely.
And we put bonus episodes of this podcast on there where we get a little bit more freaky.
Oh yeah, the
deaky.
the first bonus episode we did with Mara, that was really good. You
Yeah,
tell
there's
whole
some-
different stories.
Yeah, there's
many
There's a
stories.
good little library of bonus episodes on there right now for people to check out.
Yeah, and if you want to get involved in the church, you're excited about this idea of actually making our ethereal space a physical space in some way to expand the ethereal space, of course. Hit us up.
Yeah. We need lawyers and
We need lawyers. We need real estate people. We need people in law mainly that focus on, the cannabis laws and the new, really, edgelords of the law.
Yeah, we need an edgelord lawyer.
Yeah, we
Oh
need
yeah,
an
because it's
edgelord
going to be a
lawyer.
consumption site.
Because it's going to be a consumption site. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I hope we can partner with someone and sell a little weed there too.
Well, I was
like-
going to say, I think
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to find a space to grow. We're
Yeah,
obviously
well,
gonna get
that's another thing we need is
space.
somebody who's
Yeah, if somebody wants to get involved in the growing and stuff there. Because
In New
we should
York.
obviously have our own weed.
yeah,
Start growing our own
for
strain of weed
sure.
there.
Yeah, we need that, and we have Church of Chill T-shirts,
Oh,
long
yeah,
sleeve
we
and
do.
short sleeve,
I
and those
love
are
them.
available on our website, veryape.tv.
Yeah.
They're not there, but that's cool. I
Oh,
should
well, they're
probably-
not there. We have an Etsy shop. Church of Chill has an Etsy shop, but
Yeah, I should
reach out
find
if
a
you
way
want a
to
shirt.
get them.
We've sold like 200 of those things, and
I wear mine all the time.
yeah, me
I
too.
wear it too.
We basically change out of them for this, so we
Yeah.
don't wear the same thing every time. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun, and we're working on some movies that
Yeah.
man, I can't wait to talk about. It's
Yeah.
gonna be fun. Yeah, I can't wait to just put them out and then talk about them. But
Totally.
yeah, thanks for listening to us. This is the Very A Podcast. Sean, Cass, and Mare, Trinity Infinity. We love you. Peace, love, and magic.